So when talking about high levels of student debt, default rates, and people waiting to start families, buy homes or cars, you obviously have to get into the issue of wages. A study done by the National Employment Law Project did just that. Now what they did is they looked at wages during our so-called recovery, and I say so-called because the data was less than encouraging in what was supposed to be America picking up the pieces after the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Now, the report states that from 2009 to 2013, occupational wages have not only fallen flat, but reversed into negative territory, meaning that wages for work are now worth less than they were before. As you can see, the quintile that's taken the most hit is between $10 and $14 an hour, reducing by 4.6%. That is a disaster. And the next one, of course, is the lowest, or the second lowest bracket is, of course, your low wage, low skill, mostly service jobs. And then, of course, it moves up the ladder. Pretty much everyone has lost, but except for people who work in high finance that make a few $100,000 an hour. They are the ones that have won.
Again, it's just another kind of depressing chart time. When you look at that, even the kind of the highest quintile that this study looked at was looking between what was that, $31 and $86.34 an hour. Now, if you're making $86 an hour, you're still making a large amount of money. You're certainly in the middle class there. That's a healthy annual salary to have. And as you pointed out, there's not that many people who aren't affected by this. You're going to have some bankers and no doubt some other professions as well where you are earning over $100 an hour. But for vast swathes of the country, they should be, really angry about this. They're earning, even if you're middle class, you're earning less, 2.1% less than you had done in previous years. And those on the absolute lowest incomes, they've seen an even lower growth, or they've seen a decline in terms of money when you count inflation. And the worrying thing about that graph as well is that because those on the lower incomes, their incomes have decreased by a larger percent, that means that the wealth gap is steadily increasing as well. And I think this is one of the things that the Obama administration said, we want to try and fight wealth inequality. Well, this is one of the things that they're trying to fight, is to try and stop those who are on the lowest wages from having their wages drop further and further every single year. It's the Republicans who are trying to fight this and say, oh no, we don't even need a minimum wage, we can just scrap that, let's just completely get rid of it. It's just depressing. Everything's depressing when it comes to charts in America.
I guess I have more of a focus on the lower grade because I've worked with a lot of people in very desperate situations. I've done work in social ministry with people who are homeless and are by no means homeless by any reason that they could have caused themselves. It's been economic, and they are stuck there. Is the problem. It's like you almost cannot get out of the lower class, the proletariat, into the next level, up into the middle class, if you start out there. It's so hard, and I like our politicians, especially the Republicans, they're always going on about picking yourself up by the bootstraps. There's nothing you have no fucking bootstraps to pick yourself up with, So it's sad, and these people are the ones that are doing the hardest work. If you've never worked in a restaurant before, then you don't know what it's like to have to be behind a hot grill all day, or to be behind a counter dealing with people all day, or a nurse's aide. I have a home health aide that comes in to help me out every day, and she works her assholes. And we have our Congress is not even in session hardly ever anymore. And we're still paying them. And, these people that really deserve to make the money aren't getting it.
Absolutely. You bring up a great point about that people that are in poverty, it's so difficult to get out. And then of course that's the debt trap, the poverty trap. And it's not the Republican poverty trap that they talk about, right? Even though there are some Republicans that do understand the idea of a poverty trap, but their ideas are, I don't know how to fix it. Let's give more tax cuts to the wealthy people, as if that'll do anything. But it's the whole problem of people getting just stuck and mired in it because they can't make enough to get out, and that is the major problem.
Well, the problem is as well, I mean, the article goes on to say that Sentia Research also found out through kind of looking at the kind of increases, or as it turns out, decreases in wage over time, is that people in kind of middle-income households, they're now actually learning less now than they did back in the year 2000. So this is well before even the recession. And that kind of people are saying, oh, kind of the recession, kind of the recovery started in 2009. Well, yeah, the economy is doing better. You look at the Dow Jones or the FTSE 100, or in any other country, CAC 40 in France, they're all at record highs. Of course, the economy has improved, but that doesn't mean that kind of people's lives have improved. And so, yes, the economy is better, but that's not actually helping people. And that's kind of, as you said, the tax cuts have gone to the rich again. Obama extended the Bush, or 98% of the Bush tax cuts permanently. That's helped the kind of the people on Wall Street and all of those corporations. That's kind of the spine of the American economy. And so they think if that's doing better, then everyone's doing better. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. And seeing all the kind of the number of people that are now earning less than they did back in 2000, that's just, it's something that America should be ashamed of.
Right. And Wall Street, you bring up a good point about Wall Street. I'll get to you in a second, Julie. Just to say that, like, we've had the biggest recovery on Wall Street, right? That's where our recovery has gone. The Dow is just above everything, all the different Wall Street stocks, right? But once again, it's so divorced from the actual economy that you and I deal with, and we've just got this huge disconnect. And it's a problem with Wall Street inflating itself through money, because it doesn't really have anything to invest in except for more investment, except in things that don't actually exist, like derivatives and hedge funds and everything like that. And that also, we talked about bubbles in the last segment, right? This is another bubble, and it's the same kind of bubble that crashed our economy in 2008.
And let's not forget as well is that when we're talking about the economy is, we're dealing with billions and trillions and millions of dollars, and those numbers are generally increasing. So that's why it's better when you talk about kind of household economics, you're talking about tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. It's absolute small change. And politicians, I mean, there's always a test here in the UK when kind of a reporter, it's more of a gotcha question where they ask a politician, oh, what's the price of a pint of milk, sort of thing. There's people on Wall Street, they don't have any, because they don't deal in the lower scale numbers, they just see the large scale, millions, billions, trillions. They see those improving. They don't care about the smaller numbers. They just think, well, if our number's increasing, then everyone's numbers are increasing. And that's not the case at all. And I think that's one of the reasons there's a real disconnect between the macro side of economics, dealing with the entire nation's economic prospects, and then dealing with the microeconomics of just individual households or individual communities. And it's the communities and households that are lagging behind and need to have support, not the macro side of it, which is the banks on Wall Street and the corporations.